He sent the email at 3:12 on a Friday afternoon, 16 people CC'd. I found out from a guy on the assembly floor before I even opened my inbox. 19 years. Reduced to 2 sentences, he had no idea what he'd just started. My name is Earl Donovan. I'm 54 years old. I've spent 19 years at Slocum Ag at Equipment Corp., started on the assembly floor bolting combined headers and running hydraulic line tests, worked my way up to Director of Operations. And on a Friday afternoon in October, the founder's 27-year-old nephew sent me a 2-line email and copied 16 people on it. The email read, "Effective immediately, Earl Donovan's role is being restructured from Director of Operations to Floor Shift Coordinator. This transition reflects our commitment to forward-thinking leadership over legacy habits. Bo Slocum, Chief Transformation Officer." I read it standing in the parking lot. Carol Pittman, one of my floor supervisors, had forwarded it to my cell before I even got back to my desk. She added 3 words, "What is this?" I didn't answer her. I read the email twice, got in my truck, and drove home. My salary would drop from $210,000 to $136,000, a 35% cut. Just like that. Read off a server like a quarterly memo. Bo Slocum was 27, MBA from Vanderbilt, 11 months at a startup consulting firm in Nashville. His title, Chief Transformation Officer, had never been voted on by the board. His aunt, Lorraine Slocum, created the position by memo and handed it to him 9 months ago. 3 directors objected. She overrode them. His hands had never touched a piece of equipment in that building or any other building. I came to Slocum Ag at 35. Walked in off a referral from a guy I'd known in the industry, started on the floor same week. Combined headers, hydraulic assemblies, end-of-line quality checks. Learned every station in Bay 1 within 6 months, floor supervisor in 2 years, plant manager in 6, director of operations 8 years ago. Every step earned on output, not on who I knew, and every year, same routine. Show up early, do the work, cash the bonus, buy the stock. That last part, nobody knew about it except one person. Let me explain how that started. When I first came to Slocum Ag, the company was still co-run by the man who helped build it, Ned Hartley. Ned wasn't a Slocum by blood. He and Roy Slocum, Lorraine's late husband, had founded the company together back in 1987. By the time I arrived, Roy had been gone for 3 years, and Ned was 71 and still walked the floor every Thursday morning. He'd stop at each station, watch for a full minute, ask one question, actually listen to the answer. In my second year, Ned stopped at my station and watched me rework a hydraulic assembly sequence I'd redesigned to cut the defect rate by 11%. He didn't say anything for a while. Then he reached into his jacket and handed me a silver pen, engraved on the side. "Say year 2. Own what you build, son." Then he said it out loud, too. "Paper without equity is just paper." Ned died 4 years later. I kept the pen, and I did exactly what he told me. Started with the employee stock purchase plan. Slocum Ag offered shares at a 15% discount for employees who reinvested bonuses. Most people took the cash, paid off trucks, bought boats, took vacations. I took stock. Every quarter, every year for 19 years. Then came the private purchases. 4 executives retired over the years, each one holding a block of Slocum shares they wanted to liquidate. Mitch Calloway, VP of Procurement, 14 years ago. He wanted cash for a place in Montana. I bought his block at market rate through my attorney. Vince Alderman, Quality Director, 11 years ago. Same situation, same process. Gary Whitfield, outgoing CFO, 8 years ago. Gary wanted a clean break. I gave him one. Colt Beaumont, plant manager, retired last year. I had an offer to him within 48 hours of his announcement. Every transaction documented, every transfer filed, every disclosure submitted to the SEC under the Donovan Holdings Trust. The filings crossed the 5% threshold, then 10%, then 25%, then 50%. Everyone reported on schedule. All public record. All sitting in the Etagere database, completely invisible to anyone who didn't bother to look. The trust was my attorney Hank Mercer's idea. Hank and I went to Purdue together. Same engineering program. Graduated the same year. He went to law school after, ended up specializing in corporate securities. He's 55 now, and the only person alive who knows my full position. Hank set up the Donovan Holdings Trust 17 years ago, my second year at the company, right after Ned handed me that pen. He filed every document, tracked every acquisition, submitted every SEC schedule filing as my ownership crossed each threshold. His filings are not paperwork, they're fortifications. Every angle covered, every document cross-referenced, nothing missing. The last time anyone at Slocum Ag reviewed the full ownership filings was 2020. By then, I was already past 45%. Hank also made sure I understood Article 7 of the Slocum Ag Corporate Charter, the emergency shareholder provision. He walked me through it at the Route 51 diner about 6 years ago. Corner booth, over black coffee. "This is your insurance policy," he said. "Pray you never need it." The language is specific. If any officer of the corporation takes unilateral action affecting the compensation, title, or duties of any employee holding a majority stake without prior written consent, that shareholder may invoke Article 7 to convene an emergency board session within 36 hours. I owned 51% of Slocum Ag and Equipment Corp. My stake represented approximately $346 million, just over half of the company's $680 million valuation. And a 27-year-old with an unratified title and 11 months of consulting experience had just cut my salary by 35%, CC'd 16 people on the notification, and called my 19 years of work legacy habits. I sat in my truck in the parking lot for 3 minutes. Gloria's photo was clipped to the sun visor, her laughing at Faye's middle school graduation, squinting into the sun. Then I called Hank Mercer. He picked up on the first ring. "I've been expecting this call," he said. "How bad?" I read him the email, both sentences, silence for about 4 seconds. "There's something else," I said. "The PE deal." "I know. Deadline is 72 hours. If that closes, you drop below 50%. So we need to move on both." "Already drafting." "Give me until 6:30? There was one more thing I hadn't told Hank yet, but he already knew it. My wife Gloria died 5 years ago. Car accident on Route 51. About 4 miles from the diner where Hank and I used to meet. She was a physical therapist at the county hospital. The kind of person who remembered every patient's name, what they were recovering from, what scared them. Her memorial service filled the parking lot and spilled into the street. The week she died, I was at the plant for 72 straight hours, managing a catastrophic hydraulic line failure in Assembly Bay 3. A pressure coupling had sheared on the main transfer line. If the system had gone completely, we were looking at $11 million in equipment damage and 3 months of lost production. I stayed until every line was pressure tested, certified, and back online. I missed her last 2 days. My son Dale was 17 then. My daughter Faye was 12. They didn't say much about it at the time. They're older now. Dale is 22, studying mechanical engineering at U of I. Faye is 17, starting her senior year. Dale calls me every Sunday. He's a better man than I probably gave him reason to be. I still don't have a clean answer for either of them about that week. But when the bonus came that quarter, I put every dollar into stock. Same as always. Hank had the Article 7 filing ready by 6:47 p.m. that Friday. Emergency shareholder action on behalf of the Donovan Holdings Trust, beneficial owner of 51% of issued shares. The filing triggered 2 things simultaneously: the mandatory board session within 36 hours and an automatic hold on any pending equity transfer pending shareholder resolution, which killed Lorraine's PE deal before her attorneys even knew what hit them. Under the charter, no equity transfer above 5% could be executed while an Article 7 action was active. The outside fund's 28% purchase stopped cold. While I slept that night, here's what happened. Hank's filing hit the corporate secretary's inbox at 6:51 p.m. Sandra Merritt, who had held that job for 9 years, opened it at 7:30 while finishing dinner at her desk. She read the first paragraph, then read it again. Then picked up her phone and called Clint Radford, the company's general counsel. Clint didn't answer. He was at his son's soccer game. Sandra left a voicemail. Clint listened to it at 9:30 p.m., walking to his car in the parking lot. He called Sandra back immediately. Who filed it? The Donovan Holdings Trust. Claims 51% ownership. Beneficial owner is Earl Donovan. Clint had been general counsel at Slocum Ag for 8 years. He sat down at his home computer at 10:05 p.m. and opened the SEC database. He searched Donovan Holdings Trust. The filings loaded. He started with the most recent, an amendment filed 5 months ago. Beneficial owner, Donovan Holdings Trust. Percentages, 51.0%. He scrolled backward 17 years of filings, every acquisition documented. Share transfers from retiring executives, Callaway, Alderman, Whitfield, Beaumont, each one timestamped, cross-referenced, legally clean. Quarterly purchases through the employee plan. Every threshold crossing reported on schedule. Not one gap, not one late filing. Clint printed the full record, 49 pages. He later told me his hands started shaking around page 11. By page 28, he'd loosened his tie. By page 40, he'd poured himself something he didn't normally drink on weeknights. By page 49, he was sitting in his home office, staring at the wall with the lights off. He called Lorraine Slocum at 11:15 p.m. She answered on the third ring. Careful voice. Clint, it's late. Lorraine, I need you at headquarters first thing tomorrow. Your nephew signed something he had no authority to sign. What are you talking about? Earl Donovan owns 51% of this company. It's in the SEC filings. Every filing since his second year here. And Bo just demoted him without board authorization, without legal review, and without the consent of the majority shareholder. Silence. 5 full seconds. That's not possible. I'm looking at 49 pages that say it is. That man owns more of this company than every board member combined, including you. And Bo's title was never ratified by board resolution. The position was created by your executive memo, no vote, which means his authority to restructure anyone's compensation is legally invalid on its face, independent of the ownership issue entirely. Another silence. Longer this time. Article 7 has been invoked, Clint continued. We're legally required to convene an emergency board session within 36 hours. That puts us at Thursday morning, 10 a.m. I need every director notified by 8 a.m. tomorrow. He paused. There's also the PE deal. The Article 7 hold froze the equity transfer automatically. The fund's closing is blocked pending board resolution. Lorraine didn't speak for nearly 8 seconds. Does Bo know? No. Don't tell him. I'll handle it. She didn't handle it. Because while Lorraine sat in her bedroom processing the fact that she'd handed her nephew a title with no legal foundation and watched him use it to poke a $346 million hornet's nest, Bo was on LinkedIn. At 11:52 p.m., he posted, "Sometimes transformation means making the hard calls. Cleared the way for the next chapter tonight. The future of Slocum Ag starts now." He tagged the company account. He used the word legacy as an insult. Hank's team had a screenshot in the filing appendix by 8:00 the next morning. I woke up Wednesday at 5:30, made black coffee. Let the dog out. Rex, a yellow lab, 9 years old, moved slower than he used to. Stood on the back porch in the early dark. You can see 2 grain silos on the horizon from my property. They've been there longer than I've been alive. My phone had 12 missed calls by 6:50 a.m., 4 from Bo, 2 from Lorraine's office, 2 from Clint's cell, 1 from Sandra, 2 from numbers I didn't know, 1 from Hank, which I'd already seen. I didn't return a single call except Hank's. Board's locked in, he said. All 8 directors confirmed for Thursday 10 a.m. Clint sent formal notice this morning with the full Article 7 filing attached. Every director has seen the ownership documentation. What's the mood? Cold. 3 directors who opposed Bo's appointment from the start called Clint before he even reached out to them. They're not just voting with you, they've been waiting for an exit from this situation for months. And the PE deal, Lorraine's attorney called my office at 9:15 this morning looking for a workaround. There isn't one. The hold is clean, and it runs until the board resolves the Article 7 action. The Funds Council knows it's over. They'll walk. I looked out the kitchen window at the silos. Rex had come back inside and was asleep on the floor by the back door. I'll be there at 9:45, I said. I'll be there at 9:30. I want to be seated when they walk in. He paused. Earl, wear the good suit. I spent Wednesday doing exactly 3 things. I drove to the hardware store on Route 9 and bought a new hinge for the back gate that had been sticking since August. Came home, replaced it, took 35 minutes. Rex sat in the grass and watched me like I was doing something complicated. Then I drove to the Route 51 diner vinyl booths. Same waitress who's been there longer than I've been at Slocum Ag. I ordered black coffee and a turkey club and sat in the booth by the window and ate lunch like a man with nowhere to be. The lunch crowd was mostly guys from the co-op across the road and a table of farmers who'd driven in from Macon County. Nobody knew my name. Nobody knew what was happening 12 miles east at a $680 million company. I ate slowly. My phone buzzed the whole time. I turned it face down on the table. By 4:30 p.m., I had 9 more missed calls, 6 from Bo, 2 more from Lorraine's office, 1 from a number I later traced to Sandra Merritt's desk line. I didn't answer any of them. At 3:30, Hank had given me the update I needed. Everything else could wait until Thursday. I got home around 5 Caro, fed Rex, made dinner. Sat in the kitchen and looked at the photo of Gloria on the refrigerator, the one from Dale's 8th grade graduation, her laughing with her hand on his shoulder, squinting into the afternoon sun. Dale has her eyes. Faye has her way of going quiet when she's figured something out before anyone else in the room. I thought about what Ned used to say, own what you build. I'd been doing that for 17 years and never once said it out loud to another person except Hank. Not to Gloria, not to Dale, not to anyone on that floor. I went to bed at 9:45. I slept fine. Thursday morning, October 17th. I was up at 5:30. I put on the charcoal suit Gloria had picked out for me 7 years ago at a department store in Springfield. She'd pulled it off the rack, held it up, said it made me look like I meant business. I'd worn it twice since she died. I adjusted the tie in the bathroom mirror, navy blue, simple knot. Then I reached into the back of the top dresser drawer and took out the silver pen. Ned's pen. Say, year 2. Own what you build, son. I slipped it into my inside breast pocket. The engraving caught the light from the bathroom fixture. I drove to Slocum Ag and parked in the main lot. Not the executive garage. The main lot, same row I'd been using for 19 years, next to the loading dock entrance. Roy Langston was at the security desk when I walked in. He'd worked that post for 14 years. He looked up from his monitor, and then he did something I'd never seen him do before. He stood up. Didn't say anything extra. Just nodded. The kind of nod you give a man when you already know. Hank was in the 3rd floor corridor outside conference room A. Navy suit, scuffed leather briefcase he'd carried since law school. He doesn't replace things that still work. Ready? He asked. I've been ready for 3 years. Then let's go in. The doors to conference room A were frosted glass and oak. Same room where I'd run production reviews every first Monday of the month for 8 years. Same 18-foot table. Same chairs. Same view of the grain silos through the east-facing windows. But today, there were nameplates at every seat. 8 directors. Every chair filled. Clint Radford sat to the far left with a document stack that ran 49 pages plus appendices. Sandra Merritt sat directly behind him with a legal pad and 2 pens. Lorraine Slocum sat at the head of the table in her usual position as board chair, hands flat on the surface, face composed, eyes that hadn't slept. At the opposite end of the table, one empty chair. The nameplate read, Donovan Holdings Trust, majority shareholder. I sat down, placed Ned's pen on the table in front of me, folded my hands. The clock on the wall read 9:57. At 9:59, Bo walked in. New jacket, fresh haircut. MacBook under his arm. He walked with the loose confidence of someone who thought he was early to a meeting he controlled. Then he saw the nameplates. He saw all 8 directors. He saw Clint's document stack. He saw Hank sitting quietly with his briefcase open. He saw me at the far end of the table. His steps slowed. Just slightly. But I saw it. Mom, Lorraine. What is this? Nobody told me about a board meeting. Lorraine's voice was flat. Sit down, Bo. If this is about the operations restructuring, I have the Phase 2 presentation ready. I can pull it up right now. Sit down. He sat. Clint stood up. This emergency session has been convened pursuant to Article 7 of the Slocum Ag and Equipment Corporate Charter. The filing was submitted Friday evening by the Donovan Holdings Trust on behalf of sole beneficiary Earl Donovan. The trust holds 51% of Slocum Ag's issued shares. This position has been documented in SEC filings for 17 consecutive years. Bo's hand moved toward his MacBook. Lorraine didn't look at him. Don't. He left it closed at current company valuation. Clint continued, Mr. Donovan's stake represents approximately $346 million, just over half of this company's $680 million valuation. Additionally, the title Chief Transformation Officer was never ratified by a full board resolution. The position was created by executive memo. No vote was taken. 3 directors formally objected at the time and were overridden. Clint set down the page he was reading from. That means Mr. Slocum's authority to restructure any employee's compensation was legally invalid at the moment he exercised it. Bo looked at me. For the first time since I'd known him, he wasn't performing. Those filings can't be right. 17 years of documentation, Hank said. He didn't raise his voice. Every threshold reported. Every transfer legal. Every disclosure filed on schedule. 49 pages plus 11 pages of appendices including your LinkedIn post from Friday night. Timestamped 11:52 p.m., submitted as evidence of intent. Bo's jaw moved but nothing came out. Clint called the vote. One by one, each director stated their position. Reverse all restructuring actions. Remove Bo Slocum from the position of Chief Transformation Officer, effective immediately. Appoint Earl Donovan as Chief Executive Officer pending a 30-day transition review. The three directors who had opposed Bo's appointment from the start voted first and fast. Then the others followed. When Clint reached Lorraine, the room went quiet. She looked at her nephew for a long moment. Not with anger. Something older than that. She'd built this company alongside Roy for 22 years and then kept it running alone for 8 more. She knew what it cost. She looked at Bo the way you look at someone you love who has just shown you something you can't unsee. Then she looked at me. She said, 8-0. Unanimous. Bo stood up slowly. He looked around the room once like he was waiting for someone to stop it. Nobody moved. Then he looked at me. Friday. You just sat there. You didn't even respond to the email. No, I said. I didn't. He stood there for another second. Then security walked in, and Bo Slocum walked out of that conference room and out of Slocum AGA Equipment Corp. for the last time. The door closed. Nobody spoke for about 4 seconds. Then Clint gathered his papers, and the room started to move again. 2 hours after the vote, I was CEO of Slocum Ag and Equipment Corp. Clint walked me through the transition paperwork in his office. Sandra brought in 2 copies of everything, tabbed and organized. Clint signed where he needed to sign. I signed where I needed to sign. It took 40 minutes. Nobody made a speech. Before I left his office, Clint looked at me across the desk and said, "I've been general counsel here for 8 years. I never once pulled the ownership filings." I assumed someone else had. Nobody had. He wasn't making an excuse. He was just saying it out loud, the way a man does when he needs to hear himself admit something. I told him I appreciated his handling of the session. That was true. He'd run it clean and fair. Within 45 days, the board approved a dividend distribution. My share came to $9.1 million. Within 60 days, Bo Slocum was named in a $22 million lawsuit, breach of fiduciary duty and tortious interference, filed on behalf of the company. When you hold an unratified officer title and use it to take unilateral action against the majority shareholder, and when that action was taken in coordination with a pending equity deal designed to dilute that shareholder below majority, that's not a technicality. That's a cause of action. Hank's filing had documented the timeline clearly enough that Bo's own LinkedIn post served as Exhibit A. Lorraine resigned from the board 8 days after the vote. She submitted a 1-paragraph letter. I read it once and filed it. She built this company with Roy for over 2 decades and kept it standing for 8 years after he was gone. That deserves respect, even at the end. She let her love for her nephew override her judgment, and it cost her everything she'd spent 30 years building. That's its own consequence. I didn't need to add to it. I kept the corner office. It had been Lorraine's for years, then briefly Bo's. He'd moved his things in within a week of getting his memo-created title. I had his stuff boxed and sent to his apartment the same afternoon he walked out of the boardroom. I put Gloria's photo on the desk, the one from Faye's middle school graduation. Gloria laughing, hand on Faye's shoulder, squinting into the sun. I put Ned's silver pen in the top drawer, where I can get to it without thinking about it. The nameplate on the door says CEO. Dale called that Sunday like he always does. I told him what happened. He went quiet for a moment, then said, "Dad, you owned the company?" I told him I'd explain the whole thing when I saw him at Thanksgiving. He laughed. It was the kind of laugh that covers over something bigger. Faye texted me that night. 3 words. I knew it. I don't know exactly what she knew, but she's her mother's daughter, so probably more than I gave her credit for. Carol Pittman is still running the floor in Bay 1. Roy Langston is still at the security desk. The grain silos are still visible from my back porch every morning. Some things don't change just because the nameplate does. The work is the same. The floor is the same. The people are the same. I just own more of it on paper now than I did last month. What matters is what it always mattered, that the equipment ships right, that the line runs clean, that the people who show up every day and do the actual work are treated like they're the reason the building stands. Because they are. Ned knew that. Roy knew it. Somewhere along the way, Lorraine forgot it, or let herself believe that fresh thinking meant something other than results. And Bo never knew it at all. I keep the pen in the top drawer because I don't need to look at it anymore. I already know what it says. If you've ever had someone half your age look at everything you spent 2 decades building and call it dead weight, you know exactly how that Friday afternoon felt. If you've ever been the guy in the room who knows more than anyone at the table but gets talked over anyway, you know why I didn't say a word when Bo read me that email. Because the time to speak wasn't Friday. It was Thursday morning 2 weeks later when the room was already decided. Here's what 19 years taught me that no MBA program covers. Loyalty without equity is just habit. Showing up without ownership is just labor. The men who built things worth keeping understood that. Ned understood it. He handed me a pen and 2 words and trusted me to figure out the rest. If you're still in the room, still doing the work, still being passed over by people who inherited their chair, stay patient. Document everything. And if the system gives you a legal path, learn it better than anyone else in the building. The guy who built it quietly usually turns out to be the guy who owns it. They just don't know it yet.